Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. What we got here, F-250 Ford. This is actually the one that I did a video on last year where I did exhaust manifolds to it, drilled out all the studs and everything. And customers decided he spent some money on it. He's gonna make sure it's all tip-top shape. Well, here is a lesson on why you should always listen to your customer and hear what they're not saying. What we have is a situation where he thought the transmission was out. He thought it was going out. He thought he had something really wrong. Now, these trucks have a problem. This truck has this problem, but that's not the problem that he has. He blew a transmission line. He's not too far away from a shop. He got it there. They fixed the lines. They put fluid in it. I don't know if they put the right fluid in it, but that's neither here nor there. He prefers having us work on it. So he was asking, could there be something really wrong with that transmission? Or was it giving trouble before? Well, kinda, maybe, I don't know. So what is it doing? Well, you put it in gear, and sometimes he says it just won't shift up. It just will not shift up out of low gear. Your RPMs are going way up. He was afraid that it was slipping. He really was. He said, here's the thing. I stop, I put it in park, I shut it off, I start it back up, put it in gear, and it drives fine. It takes hold just fine, no problem at all. Well, do you think you can get it here without damaging it? Yep, yeah, I'm pretty sure. So he does. He brings it here, no damage. First thing I check, because when he said he stops and puts it in park, and then it works after that, are you sure you're in the right gear? Well, yeah, it says D. All right. I'm thinking it went low on fluid, churned up a bunch of junk in the transmission. It's got a filter plugging up, it's got a valve sticking, something along those lines, and you stop, shut it off, and everything recycles and goes ahead and works again. So he gets it down here. We realize right away it does not have a sticking valve. It actually doesn't have a problem in the transmission. You take it out of park and you pull that thing down 2-3 inches before it actually starts to shift a gear. And then when it shifts a little bit, it shifts a long way. All right, well, the shifter's all sloppy. It's a Ford truck. I'll show you later what we find there. But they have a problem up in the column with what they call a receiver tube. That gets, the bracket on the bottom gets loose. The bushings around the receiver tube get loose, and you get a lot of slap up there in your shifter on the column. That's part of it. The rest is, when it did shift, it had a spring action to it. It is that difficult to shift. I'll show you. Here we are underneath of it, and we're looking at the shifter here. Now, I took off the shift cable right here so I can shift manually. And it turns so hard that you can barely feel the detents in the shifter. So we got two options. Either we got something locking up in the Prindle switch here, or something stuck on the bushing here. Now, we went ahead and pulled the pan because we're going to service it anyway, and I'm going to take this switch off if I can get it off without busting it. And if it's still stiff, then we got to pull this shifter all apart inside here and clean this bushing out, because the problem is not a bad cable stiff. The problem is the shifter itself here in the transmission is that stiff. Well, that was quick. Now, got the bolts out of the brindle switch here, and I can shift it back and forth with no resistance. So the brindle switch is what's stiff inside of itself. I don't have to worry about breaking this when I take it off, because I'm going to break it. It's junk. We'll get a new brindle switch. We'll service his transmission as his request, and then I'll show you what's wrong with the column up top. Okay, I got the old part off and just about destroyed it in the process. Yeah, in here it built up rust in between the shaft and this plastic bushing, and it swelled the shaft up until it was locking inside the switch. So look at all that crusty rust in there. I'll show you the shaft here. Okay, here's the shaft, and you can see right here this rust buildup. I'll see if I can grab it with my pliers. Watch that chunk of rust right here. See? It's about all gone now. Clean this up. I'll get some emery cloth and shine it up, and then we'll slide the new part on there. Okay, we got this thing all attached. There's a couple of lines here. That you're supposed to line up. And I am not sure if they're correct or not, but we're going to fix the top side before we adjust this around and tighten it up. Okay, first off, in here you knock off this fuse panel, gives you access in here, and then undo the electric to this, and these covers, yeah, it'd be a good idea. Go ahead and pull them off too. All right, now here's a tip on these things. Do not allow the steering wheel to spin while you've got it out. You got to pull the bolt there on the steering column, the shaft, and it's pointing straight down right now. The steering wheel is at its up position. When they put the steering lock in these things, they didn't want your wheels to be pointing straight forward, because then you could just pull it straight forward. So the steering lock is upside down, or off like that. Well, now the bolt is off. So you put it here. There. You put it here, you pull your bolt, then you rotate it until it locks. Then you take the steering shaft off so that your steering wheel is not spinning and spinning. Otherwise, you're going to destroy your clock spring that's underneath the airbag. Don't ask me how I know, because I have never done it. I have always done this because I knew it was a possibility. But before you do all of that, go ahead and pull out your lock cylinder here and remove this cover, and then plop your lock cylinder back in so you can have your steering wheel locked and it can't spin. Okay, there it is removed. I pulled the fuse box out of the way. That gave me more room. This, in the older ones, it doesn't have this thing right here. It's a lot smaller, so it's not in the way. But you see the hole that it creates. It is tight coming out of here. So, and here's the removed product. Now, I've done a video on this lever before, like when your shifter feels awfully floppy, to check this lever right here. This is where the shift lever hooks up. The cable hooks up over here. Now, look right here. This bolt is probably only half a thread loose. But these two bolts right here, those are the ones you reach up in underneath from the bottom and tighten them up. Little Torx bits. They're special kind of bolts. But you take these out, put Loctite on, put them back in, or just tighten them up. I mean, that'll probably last the vehicle out. But along this shaft here, here's one of the bushings that came completely out of this bale. We've got new bushings to go in here, and they're just a piece of plastic. But whenever they're gone, this whole tube can move, and it all translates into slack up here. So that's why we have to take care of it. Now you can see our detents are real close after we've adjusted everything. Beforehand, you had to pull it all the way down here just to get it past reverse and then go back up. And what the customer was doing is he was getting it into low gears when it would pop loose. Instead of being in park, he'd push it back up into drive right here, but it wouldn't move anything. It'd still be in low. Now, everything is nice and tight. No more sloppy shifter. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.